Hey guys, welcome back to Cooking with Reg-Reg. I hope you are all doing well and making it through this time at home. But just because we're home all day doesn't mean we want to have to cook all day long. And I have found the most amazing meal to cook in a pressure cooker. It's something that I cook often on the stove. It's just chicken and rice. But today we're gonna do it in the pressure cooker and it is so fast. The other thing I love about this recipe is that it used everything I had in the freezer. Well, not everything, but I was able to make everything from the freezer. So I'm using frozen chicken breast, and I'm not gonna use all of this, but I'm gonna use some frozen peas and carrots. And we're using the arborio rice, which makes risotto. And then just a half packet of this Italian seasoning. It's actually salad dressing. And some salt and some pepper. And that is it. It is really, really simple. And the peas and carrots go in at the end, once the chicken's cooked. So I'm going to put these in the freezer. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back from the freezer. Oh, and I'm doing it a little different today. If you're used to watching my videos, I usually have it set up a little differently. And I thought I would do it this way so that it's easier for you guys to see everything without having the camera move around. So I'm trying everything backwards, so bear with me. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do, let me just start by saying I'm using the 8-quart Ninja Foodi pressure cooker. I'm sure this works with any pressure cooker recipe, but keep in mind for the quantities that I am using, I have an 8-quart pot. So if you have a 6-quart pot or a different size, you probably want to play around with it, but this is what we're doing. So I have my cooking pot already in. I'm going to add the rice. And if you'll come over here, I want to show. This is not, you cannot use white long grain rice. I'm using the rice that you use to make risotto because it can tolerate the higher cook times and temperatures that happen in a pressure cooker. You could also do this with brown rice, but only if you're using thighs, because thighs need a longer time to cook, just like the brown rice. So there's a lot of different ways you can do this, but I'm using chicken breast, so I'm gonna go with the risotto rice. And as you guys already know, here that we don't use like cream or milk in our food because we have an allergy to it or intolerance. And when I made this earlier this week, my son was so excited. He looked at me and his eyes lit up and he said, "What did you use for the cream?" This came out like so creamy and amazing, and there's no cream in it. Okay, so I'm adding a half teaspoon of black pepper. And then I'm using a teaspoon of salt, but I'm gonna change my mind and make it like half. So I'm gonna use a half teaspoon of salt. And the reason why is that the chicken broth already has salt in it, even though it's low sodium. And I really don't want to have too much salt. So now I'm just gonna stir this around. Get everything blended. So I'm using these chicken breasts because this was the only chicken I could get from my online grocery order. And I did it before with just 4 breasts. And it looks like that's what I have left. And like a chunk. So I'm just gonna add it in there. Okay, so just wanna point out the chicken broth and the rice. The amounts that I used for the arborio rice, I used 1 1/4 cup. For the broth, I used 2 cups. And then the 4-ish chicken breast. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take this zesty Italian salad dressing mix. You can use Italian herbs. I just happen to have this in my pantry and I thought, well, I'll just try it. So the thing I really like about this is, besides it being so quick, is that it doesn't require any special ingredients, and you can mix and match and put your own flavors in it. And I've never really bought these frozen chickens. I used to do a crock pot recipe with them, but I stopped doing that a long time ago. And I just never really thought to use them. I liked using fresh chicken, but right now it's hard to get everything I want when I'm not actually going into the store. Okay, so can you show that, what that looks like? Okay, so what I want to do is, I've already added the 2 cups of chicken broth. So now I'm going to add roughly another 1/2 cup or so. I just want to make sure that there's enough liquid in here for this. And I'm pouring it kind of to the side so I don't mess up the seasoning on that chicken. I just want to move it around a little bit. So I don't want them to stick together. Okay, so then we're gonna, I already have my seal rubber ring in, and I'm gonna twist it. I'm gonna set my pressure cooker to seal. And we're going to go to pressure. And I think that I want to keep it at 10 minutes because I added that little extra chicken. Okay, so I have it on pressure high for 10 minutes. Okay guys, so the pressure cooking cycle is done. It's been warming for about 8 minutes, and so in case it's your first time seeing this type of pressure cooker cook, what happens is that after it comes to steam, it cooks for that amount of time that you told it to cook. And then once it's done, it does a very slow natural release of steam for about, well, for however long you let it, or you can quick release it. So I let it rest. I was trying for 5 minutes, but I got busy doing something else. So what I'm gonna do is make sure I have a rubber hand, and then I'm gonna put a little towel here because for whatever reason, it always kind of like spurts out. And usually I'm standing on this side. So hopefully I don't burn myself. Okay. So now it's got to, this is called quick release. And it smells amazing, by the way. And so what it needs to do is the steam that's built up in here that was used to cook the meal now has to escape before we can open it. And we'll know when it's okay to open when that pin drops down. So we're gonna let this do its thing. It usually takes about anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes, so we'll be back in a little bit. Okay, welcome back. So now everything is done. The little pin has dropped, and I'm still gonna open this carefully so that it's kind of away from me. And I'm gonna take a quick look at this. And I just wanna look at the chicken. Yeah, it just separates. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to put these frozen peas and carrots. I think I measured that peas and carrots wrong. So you don't want to cook the frozen veggies in here during that whole cycle because they will basically go away. So what I'm doing is I'm just stirring them in without disrupting too much. And I'm going to close this lid on my pressure cooker. And I'm just gonna bake this for a little bit. So I'm gonna close. And I'm going to come over here to bake at 375. And for the time, I'm just gonna say like 4 minutes is fine. And it's loud when it first starts up, and it settles down. And the reason why I'm doing this extra step is just again to make sure those frozen veggies cook. And all they need is just a few minutes in this because it's so hot. But if you wanted to use fresh vegetables, fresh carrots would be perfect. You could do the rice and then the chicken and then the carrots and cook it the same way. But I didn't have any fresh carrots, so I improvised and I used the frozen peas and carrots. So we're gonna let this go for a little bit. Okay, so one thing I wanted to share with you guys is that I normally buy the smaller boxes of the chicken broth. When I went to the store before we got like shut in, this was all I could find. So I've had like 5 of these in my pantry for like the last, I don't know how long it's been, 4 or 5 weeks. And so I'm starting to run low. I think this fresh box is my last one. So I decided to try to use my giant ice cube tray so that I could freeze this broth and have it for another time. Because I don't know when I'll need broth again, right? So I use the 2.5 cups in here in this chicken and rice recipe, and then I measured out how much liquid could go into 1 cube, and it was roughly a 1/2 cup, right at a 1/2 cup. So I basically have all of this pre-measured. I'm gonna freeze it, and then once it's frozen, I'll pop it out into the little blocks and put it in a freezer bag, and then I'll know that if I need a certain amount of broth, I can just take it out of the freezer, and I didn't waste it, and I have enough for another time. Okay, we're back. Dinner is done. It has been a one-pot wonder. So we started at 7:03 and it's 7:53. And again, it took all of maybe 8 minutes to actually put it together, maybe even less. And the rest of that time was just the pressure cooker doing its work. Oh, okay, so I goofed up. Okay, welcome back. So I made a little bit of a mistake when I added the peas and carrots. I meant to add a half bag, and what I did was added a half bag of peas and then a half bag of carrots. So I added a whole bag instead of a half bag. So I didn't set the cook time on that bake cycle for long enough. So I did have some of the veggies were still a little cold. So I just let it go a few extra minutes, and now I'm stirring it, and it looks amazing. We have this wonderful creamy risotto with chicken, peas, and carrots. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and be sure to hit the like, that's not the like, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe and get the little notification bell, and then we'll see you next time. Take care.